Hon Peter Akpatason. I represent all the people of Akoko Edo Federal Constituency, the oldest local government in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I am from Edo State. I rise to move that a bill for an act to amend the Nigerian Communications Act 97 laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to provide for regulation of unsolicited telephone communications from all communication industries in Nigeria, and to make provision for the prohibition of online safety that will require internet service providers and mobile phone operators to provide a service that excludes adult content, and a bill for an act to prohibit the sales of pre-registered and falsely or illegally registered SIM cards, and for other matters related thereto. HBS 422 and 423 be read for the second time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by Honorable Akpatason.
I am presenting a consolidated bill by myself and Honorable Osai. His portion of the bill seeks to amend and regulate the protection and promotion of consumers' interests against unsolicited telephone calls for direct marketing purposes. Secondly, unfair practice on matters relating to tariffs and charges. Thirdly, non-provision and non-availability of quality of communication services and facilities. Fourthly, adult content in the services provided by internet service providers and mobile telephone operators. This is the first aspect of the consolidated bill, which was actually sponsored by my colleague. Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that we have had a situation where our telephone lines are inundated with marketing materials that are deliberately, distributed, circulated by service providers for the purpose of maximizing profit for themselves without minding what effect it has on people who actually don't need such services. Mr. Speaker, that for me, that amounts to advertisement. When you are doing your advertisement, you have to use a medium that you have directly subscribed to, not the general telephone list in the country, in such a way that people who don't even want that content that you are circulating, you are compelling them, at any point in time to be part of that population that they are sending the advertisement to. What this does to a lot of people, Mr. Speaker, is that sometimes, even as you are sleeping in the night, you see their unsolicited text messages coming into your life. This is not acceptable. It is not a universally acceptable practice, and in most parts of the world, service providers are prohibited from doing so. And this is one of the aspects that my colleague seeks to address. And also, there are unfair practices on matters relating to tariffs. A lot of our people have presented motions on this, but as you know, they believe that motions do not have the power of law. And so we have decided to put this into a bill and also to prescribe sanctions for violation of such aspect of this bill. Also, you know that Nigeria is reputed for our moral standards. We have moral values in this country. There are certain things that we don't allow in our homes. There are certain things that we don't want to expose our children to. But there is a way in which online content violates such rules. What people don't want to expose their children to can be sent to their kids through the social media, because oftentimes there are no regulations prohibiting such content. And this is the reason why my colleague is seeking a prohibition of adult content in certain aspects of our social media. And finally, from this whole end, non-availability of quality communication media rather. Now, we have a situation in which for 2 or 3 days in some cases, some of these service providers, their facilities are not working. You make a call that is unsuccessful. At the end of the day, you are made to pay for it. Not because your telephone is not good, but because of the quality of the equipment that these service providers are using. Now, if you complain, they have a lot of excuses to give. They will tell you that, yes, there's power generation problem and all of that. Yes, we agree that there's energy deficit in this country. But they make so much profit that they can afford to do what we do in our homes. When the so-called power distribution services are not available, we have our standby source of power generation. So if we who are not making profit from such services can do that, there is no reason why well-established telecom companies cannot provide alternative source of power backing for their equipment to ensure that at any point in time, we are able to access services of very high quality. Mr. Speaker and my colleague, this is the first leg of the consolidated bill. My own leg of it seeks to amend the aspect that has to do with registration of SIM cards. I am aware that we are all conversant to the fact that SIM cards have been used for a lot of criminal activities in this country. Why is it so easy for kidnappers to pick a SIM card, call people, for criminals to pick a SIM card, issue threats to life, and say all sorts of criminal things, and at the end of the day, you are not able to trace those SIM cards to certain individuals? 2 things happen. 1, presently, there is bulk registration of SIM cards in this country. Some retailers go out there in connivance with operators of these services. They must produce and sell SIM cards to individuals who use all sorts of names to register such cards, and thereafter they go onto the street to sell to unsuspecting buyers. In some cases, willing buyers. Now, what that means is that if a man is able to register 200 SIM cards, for instance, with fake names, and he goes out to sell them, anybody can buy and use such cards for anything at all. Presently, that is what is going on. And it is capable of undermining the security of people and properties in this country. Because people with criminal intentions will go out there to buy such things, to threaten the life of people, to compel certain people to go and pay money into banks. Otherwise, XYZ will happen to them. This is what has been happening. Kidnappers are, very, smart, and they quickly, take advantage of these, lacunas in this system, to acquire instruments that they can use, to terrorize, and threaten and harass Nigerian citizens. These are some of the very serious issues that we have looked at, and we feel that there must be a legislation to criminalize such acts and also make provision for sanctions. The sanctions that we are prescribing here is that for an individual who is found guilty of violating any of this provision, it will be liable on conviction to a minimum of 6 months or 500,000 naira fine. While in the case of a corporate body, they'll be liable, the approving authority in that corporate establishment will be liable to a minimum of 5 million naira fine or 6 months imprisonment, whichever, or a both of them. These are the new amendments that we have collectively decided to bring, on board, so that some of the shortcomings in the existing bill or act of law will be properly checked, and those criminal acts that have been perpetuated as a result of those, shortcomings can be properly, addressed henceforth. Mr. Speaker, these are the issues, and we believe that if this bill passes through this phase and eventually, it becomes an act of law, Nigerians stand to gain so much in the area of security, in the area of business protection, and in terms of the quality of services that we get from this telecommunication, in addition to the issue of morals that we talk about, protecting our children from having undue access, to content in the social media that are toxic and detrimental to their interests. So on the strength of this, Mr. Speaker, I call on my colleagues to support the second reading of this bill. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to amend the Nigerian Communications Act Cap N97 laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to provide for regulation of unsolicited telephone communication from all communication industries in Nigeria, and to make provision for the promotion of online safety that will require internet service providers and mobile phone operators to provide a service that excludes adult content, and a bill for an act to prohibit the sales of pre-registered and falsely or illegally registered SIM cards and for other matters related thereto. Second reading.